Yu Yu Hakusho is a timeless masterpiece. I have recently finished watching Yu Yu Hakusho. Well, technically it was 2 months ago, but it doesn't matter. And I can say it's one of the best shows I've ever watched. There's so much to unpack about how I feel about the show, where it does good, where it does bad. Even though it was made in the 1990s, I can confidently say that Yu Yu Hakusho still holds up to this day. And today I'll be talking about why I believe this show is a timeless masterpiece and why I enjoyed it so much. What most shounen manga get wrong and why so many are axed after one volume or 20 chapters is because of their introduction. And I think there are 2 ways that an author could do their introductions for a shounen story. One way is the One Piece and Naruto way, where goals are set in stone in chapter 1, and if set up correctly, you end up curious about how they're going to achieve their goal. Luffy being Pirate King in a vast world, and Naruto, who I believe does it best, on how he's gonna become Hokage. By setting up Naruto as a failure and having the goal of Hokage that is seemingly such an unreachable goal with a sad backstory to boot, it hooks us to carry on reading or watching the story. Or we have point B. This is where I put shows like Bleach, Hitman Reborn and Yoshihiro Family, where up until a certain point you can jump into the manga and get a gist of what's happening. This is a riskier approach in my opinion, and it creates a more episodic feel to the anime manga. Still, you're only able to do this if your main character, is strong and firm. An example of this would be Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach. He's all about protecting his friends because of what he went through as a child. And even before the Soul Society and Ichigo got his powers, Ichigo sees himself as a protector due to his survivor's guilt. And we can see on many occasions where this comes into play. For example, the ambulance scene where he goes to protect Chad, a person he barely knows, or when Ichigo helps Orihime's brother rest. The feeling that Ichigo has of needing to protect everyone he loves is the whole crutch of the story. So now we know this, who is the crutch of Yu Yu Hakusho's story?
Now I'm like shit, I hopped out so quick,
him outside of the ring.
But he's killed our sect members.
Yes, and if you had landed that punch, you would have died as well.
Told that bitch get in cause she looking confused. I broke the rule cause this bitch a witness. Plus I just popped through but she ain't crying. And this hoe is smiling. Plus this bitch look cute so we slide out. I'm checking
Yusuke Urameshi. Oh, what a guy. When we first see him, he's a stubborn lad. And in Japanese culture, people would call him a delinquent. And if he was in the UK, he'd probably be on road. However, that's besides the point. In a twist of fate, he saves a boy who's about to get run over, but he dies while doing so. Now he's in the supposed afterlife of this universe, and what he says is kind of very sad to hear.
I think I like being a ghost. You said yourself my life was kind of pathetic, right? Everyone's gonna be much happier now that I'm erased. Teachers will be able to rest their big mouths. Plus, my mom will be able to party whenever she wants and not have to worry about where I'm at, huh?
I'm sorry you feel that way at such an early age.
And here is why I think the theme of Yu Yu Hakusho is most prevalent in its first and very last chapters. Purpose. What Yusuke says here is a very sad thing. Yusuke is around 13 years old when he's thinking this, and I'm sure many people could relate to Yusuke in that moment. As if we went into a deep dive of this situation here, people could relate to Yusuke because they could put themselves in Yusuke's shoes. So it makes sense that Yusuke says something like this. It's only a reflection on what people tell him that he is. So why is someone like him deserving of living, deserving of a second chance? And simply, it's because Yusuke hasn't found his purpose. It's only when he sees that people care about him, Yusuke starts to live. He finds his purpose. It's definitely a slow process, that's for sure. as Yusuke falls back into old habits time and time again. You see, each time there's a break between arcs, you can see him falling back into his old habits, skipping lesson, being a quote-unquote delinquent. But as his time as a spirit detective while dead, he was able to see that so many people cared about him. And not just that, he can meet so many other people in this world as well. And that's what he did. And as a spirit detective, he gathered friends like Kuwabara, his high school crush and his sweetheart Keiko, foes like Hiei and Kurama, who eventually turned to his friends, powerful opponents like Jin, Q, and so many others to join him on his journey to find what does it mean to live for Yusuke. Such a deep question that doesn't really have an answer, but I feel Yu Yu Hakusho answers this perfectly. In the ending of Yu Yu Hakusho, it just summarizes everything that Togashi is trying to say. He doesn't give you a definitive answer, because it's not a definitive answer. It's not yes or no, it's not white or black. It's despite all you went through, you keep on living for the people you care about. Yusuke had the second chance of life. Why not take it? Why not use it for something that's purposeful? And he finds that purpose. In the final arc, he asked to marry Keiko. The relationship was that unclear, I didn't even know that they were dating in the anime. Yusuke found his purpose, and I believe it's Keiko. And Yusuke was able to survive the demon realm simply because he wanted to be with Keiko. He made a promise that he'd come out there and marry her, and at the end of the series, what happened? He did precisely that. Yusuke fulfilled his purpose, and you can see Yusuke smiling at the end of the anime, because that was his purpose in that specific moment. His purpose might change, it might stay the same for his whole life, but Yusuke has finally found purpose, and that's what Yu Yu Hakusho means to me.